I never give out a 10. G'day my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about ratings of books in particular, though I guess it also applies to ratings for films or other things. It's a topic that I have been thinking a lot about recently. How meaningful are ratings? Sometimes I think my ratings aren't very meaningful. So is that just me, or is that generally across the board? And let me preface this video by saying that, like always, there is no judgment, no right or wrong here. This is just an opportunity to open the discussion about how much meaning is there in ratings. There are, of course, many ways we can rate a book, but the most popular is a numeric value, usually out of 5. I think Goodreads has a lot to do with that in particular. However, I score out of 10 because I've always scored out of 10 since I was a teenager. I just find it gives me a little bit more room than 5 does. And I'm talking about personal reviews, personal ratings by individuals who are not doing this as a profession, as a job. I think there are benefits to having ratings. One is that you immediately have an indicator as to how that person found that book. Another is that it is a consistent system of rating. So it's easy to tell, well, if that's got a 4 out of 5, that, for example, means it's a good book, maybe even a very good book. One of the biggest disadvantages of ratings is that they are subjective. Perhaps I should also touch briefly on this argument of subjective and objective. That's a hard one to answer. I generally think that our opinions are subjective unless we have external criteria that we can judge something against. Whether someone likes or dislikes a book is subjective. Whether the writing is good or not, perhaps that is arguable, can be assessed objectively. For example, that there are no spelling mistakes, that the grammar is correct. They are objective criteria, yes. But whether an author has succeeded in their aim is, I think, a subjective assessment. Whether they have drawn the characters well or well plotted a book is also, I think, subjective. I tend to lean towards the view that ratings or reviews are subjective. That I bring with me, whether I like it or not, my past experiences, my biases, my reading experiences, my reading tastes. They will all, to some degree, influence my review or rating of a book. And we all have different experiences of life, of reading, which means it can lead to inconsistency in ratings. Another disadvantage is that the criteria we use to give a rating may not be uniform. I may have certain criteria which you don't, for example. So does that mean that ratings are meaningless? I don't think so, but it will depend on certain factors. One factor, I think, is it will depend on who is giving that rating. There are some people, for example, who don't like to be negative about books, which means they rarely give a book a low score. There are some people who don't give out 5s unless it is a truly spectacular book in their opinion. And there are others who give 5s out to every book that they enjoy. And that is, I think, the major problem with ratings. How to discern whether they are valuable or not. As for me, when I look at a rating of someone I don't know, never seen before, never read anything by them before, I will take it with a huge grain of salt because I don't know what their tastes are. I don't know how they score a book. I don't know whether they're very generous or very tough. I think for me to take a rating seriously, I need to know the reviewer. I need to know their style of reviewing. I need to know if they are the type who always gives out 5s for most of the books they've read, or if they are the type who never give out 5s. But random ratings out on the internet, I find I can't take seriously because I don't know what criteria they use. Now, I don't want to make this a video about Goodreads, but I want to kind of illustrate my point here. I am not a member on Goodreads and I have no intention of becoming one. I find that more often than not, books I like are given very low ratings and books I hate have very high ratings. So it's clear to me that our tastes do not align with most of the reviewers on Goodreads. And that, again, does not mean that they are wrong and I am right. It simply means we don't have similar tastes. But when I go and look at a review of a book, I don't look at the overall score. I pretty much ignore that. I actually look at the content of the reviews themselves. And if the review is simply, I hated this book, or I loved this book, then I ignore it. That doesn't help me. I am much more likely to take a review seriously if it spells out why they love or hate a book. I may not agree, but that's irrelevant. What is important for me personally is that I can understand why a reviewer gave a particular score based on their reasons. And I won't deny, I generally go first for the negative reviews. I really do. But again, they must have reasons for the negative review. Now, others do take Goodreads ratings as an indicator whether they will like a book or not. It personally does not work for me. I usually give a rating much more weight when it is from someone whom I respect, whose opinion I respect, who perhaps I've already seen before and have seen how they actually rate the books that they read. If it is someone whose opinion I value, then their rating has a lot more weight than 1,000 ratings from strangers that I don't know. But that's me. That doesn't mean you look at ratings the same way. So that leads me on to how do I rate? As I mentioned previously, I score out of 10. I've always done this and I'm not willing to change it. However, I never give out a 10. For me, a 10 signifies perfection, and nothing is perfect. Even my favorite books will not get a 10. But that is just how I rate books. It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, it is simply how I've always rated things. I'm also known as a hard rater, hard scorer. I am not very generous in my ratings. But if I give a book even a 6 or above, that means it's a good book. And any score under 5 means I will never read it again, which is an indicator that I did not like the book. The lower the score, the less I liked it. A1, for example, is a book I hated. Absolutely. And think is rubbish, which again is a subjective opinion. However, there is a caveat to all of this. I find that my ratings are also fluid. flexible. I might give you a score today of say 7, and tomorrow I might give you a 6. A week from now it might be still 6. But in 6 months it could be something completely different. Sometimes the longer you sit with a book or film or show, your view can change as you reflect on what you read or watched. And that's what I find. Sometimes my views change. And I wonder just how valuable are my ratings? And I don't think they are. I think that, yes, you can get an indication as to whether I liked a book because it's above 5, but that's about all. And I have been wondering whether to change my rating and go from excellent, very good, good, mediocre, boring to terrible. I think that's more accurate for me, for my rating of books, rather than giving you a numeric value. Very good or excellent or terrible immediately tells you where it stands in my opinion. If I decide that a book is very good today, that is unlikely to change in the future, though that can happen as well. Because it is true, I have changed my mind about some of these ratings. It is why I struggle so hard to do tier ranking of lists, whatever it is. I always know, for example, what my top 2 or 3 books or series are. The rest, though, can go anywhere on the list. How do you rank something like that? It will depend what mood I'm in. Sometimes on reflection, I realize I've been too hard on a book or too easy. With time, you can change your view of a book. So how useful is a rating? I don't know. I don't think it is as useful as we think they are. But we see a numeric value and we think, oh, that is accurate. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So I'm considering changing to excellent, very good, good, mediocre, bad to terrible. I haven't decided, but I just wanted also to make you all aware that my ratings can change with time. That they should not be set in stone when it comes to me, because they are a little bit more fluid than even I would like. I'd like to be able to say, no, I gave it a 7, I still think it's a 7, but it's not the reality. Now, of course, I want to hear your thoughts on this topic. Do you think ratings are useful, or do you find them meaningless? You know, I always want to hear your opinions, and you can let me know down in the comments. That's all I've got for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then you know what to do. You can like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I also have a Patreon account if you wish to support me in that way. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye. I wanted to thank all my patrons, but a big shout out to my book dragons, Gabriella, Johanna, Joe, Kiki, Laurie, and Michael.